Closely follow the most important facts around the world with a wholesome view. We offer you to be where the news are happening with our team of 25 correspondents deployed around the globe. Live and experience the realities of our people from the South. Monday to Friday, just in Telesur. Our North is the South. The Pakistani journalist Tariq Ali examines the mass media influence promoted by imperialism. Get access to the analysis of the socio-economic and political life of the whole South America on our screen and platform in English. A critical place committed to the truth to determine the major events that transform the world today. The World Today. On Monday, only on Telesur. Closely follow the most important facts around the world with a wholesome view. We offer you to be where the news are happening with our team of 25 correspondents deployed around the globe. Live and experience the realities of our people from the South. Monday to Friday, just in Telesur. Our North is the South.
Good evening to you. This is Telesur Englishes from the South, our news brief. We are live from Caracas, Venezuela. I'm Regan Devines, and we start this edition now. U.S. President Donald Trump ended a brief trip to Puerto Rico amid protests and complaints over his administration's response to the havoc left by Hurricane Maria. Many people on the island are frustrated and resentful because they're still struggling without electricity and basic necessities 2 weeks after the storm. During his 5-hour visit, Trump heaped praise on Governor Ricardo Rosselló and stepped back from his criticisms of the San Juan mayor, who on Saturday he called ungrateful, nasty, and guilty of poor leadership. But some of his remarks still seemed insensitive to many in the colonial territory.
Now, I hate to tell you, Puerto Rico, but you've thrown our budget a little out of whack because we've spent a lot of money on Puerto Rico, and that's fine. We've saved a lot of lives. If you look at every death is a horror, but if you look at a real catastrophe like Katrina, and you look at the tremendous hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that died, and you look at what happened here with really a storm that was just totally overpowering. Nobody's ever seen anything like this. What is your death count as of this moment? 17?
16 certified.
16 people certified. 16 people versus in the thousands. You can be very proud of all of your people, all of our people working together. 16 versus literally thousands of people. You can be very proud. Everybody around this table and everybody watching can really be very proud of what's taken place in Puerto Rico.
On the ground, we have our correspondent, Eduardo Martin, on the ground in Puerto Rico. Eduardo, what more can you tell us about Donald Trump's trip there?
Greetings, Reagan. We continue here in our special coverage from Puerto Rico. The situation remains in an emergency phase, as authorities have said. They have pointed out that there's still work to do for the reconstruction efforts. We're talking about the electric power and the availability of water. Up to now, 5% of the population have electricity, and we hope that at the end of the month, 25% of the population will have power. Only 45% of the population have access to drinking water. This situation is concerning the healthcare authorities. They are talking about outbreaks of diseases, especially in the population in the town of Yabucoa. The situation worsens the situation that was already going through several villages in Puerto Rico. The situation here in San Juan has improved, but there's still lack of power, and some people who have electricity get this electricity from generators. However, the situation still concerns people in the different municipalities around the island here in Puerto Rico, because they still lack food and drinking water. Even though, according to Governor Ricardo, they are trying to improve the situation, and they are setting up distribution centers all around the island so as to increase the help and the recovery efforts. And we also saw here President Trump came and stayed here during 5 hours, and he talked to the authorities here in Puerto Rico. This is the situation, and there was rejection from social movement of the visit of Donald Trump.
Thanks so much, Eduardo, covering the story on the ground. We'll keep you updated on that. Moving on, the entire population of Barbuda is still on the sister island of Antigua after homes there were destroyed by Hurricane Irma. Making Barbuda habitable again could take nearly a year, but its citizens do go back there for a few hours to try to recover what they can. Our special envoy, Rolando Segura, reports.
Amparo comes back home for the first time after the recent storm.
I've come to get small things that I need the most.
It's been almost 4 weeks since Hurricane Irma passed over here, and everything is just as they left it, when the island had to be evacuated.
The really hard thing is to lose one's life. Everything else, you can get back.
Amparo moved to Barbuda 16 years ago with the hope for a better life, which was impossible in her homeland, the Dominican Republic. She's faced several hurricanes here, but nothing like Irma.
I've worked for 17 years to get any little thing here. This is work. If you don't work, you don't get anything. I have family. That freezer came here and wasn't mine. The breeze, the air brought this washing machine flying.
But the main concern of this Barbudan resident is to find her best friend when she arrives home.
Ay, mi perro! Oh, my little dog. What's wrong with you? What happened? Did they do something to you? Let me see. Oh, my. Oh, Jesus. What's wrong?
El perro siente igual que yo.
The dog feels the same way I do, and I know he is really good. I adopted him when he was a puppy, and it's very different from having a bed or any furniture. The important thing here is life.
Lo importante es la vida.
The Category 5 Hurricane Irma hit Amparo's house with 280 km/h winds.
When you have courage and you have a spirit inside your body, you have to keep going. I know what work is like. I know what it's like. I've gotten up. I've had worse times than this, but I've overcome that.
Just like Amparo, all the residents of Barbuda had to face the ravages of the most powerful hurricane that has ever hit the Caribbean region. Basically flat and with precarious buildings, the island of Barbuda couldn't resist Irma at all. With storms becoming stronger and stronger, the government of Antigua and Barbuda says that houses like Amparo's should now be built to standards that can withstand such hurricanes.
More news in a minute. Stay with us. Welcome back. Cuba has strongly rejected the United States' decision to expel 15 diplomats from the Cuban embassy in Washington, D.C. The U.S. State Department said it took the action because of Cuba's failure to take appropriate steps over what it calls health attacks against its embassy staff in Havana. In August, the department said that U.S. embassy staff and 5 Canadians in the Cuban capital experienced unusual audio disturbances. Cuba's foreign minister said the action was unjustified and accused the United States of insufficient cooperation with Cuba's investigation into the alleged attacks.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs strongly protests and condemns this unfounded and unacceptable decision, as well as the pretext used to justify it. It is the second time that the U.S. government reacts in a hasty, inappropriate, and unthinking way without having any evidence, and before the conclusion of the investigation that is still in progress. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs categorically rejects any responsibility of the Cuban government in the alleged incidents and reiterates once again that Cuba has never perpetrated, nor will it ever perpetrate attacks of any sort against diplomatic officials or their relatives. Neither has it ever allowed, nor will it ever allow its territory to be used by third parties with that purpose. The ministry emphasizes that the U.S. government announced decision has an eminently political character. The ministry urges the competent authorities of the U.S. government not to continue politicizing this matter, which can provoke an undesirable escalation and would ratify and reverse even more bilateral relations.
Our correspondent Laura Prada is in Havana with more on the Cuban reaction to the expulsions. Laura?
Hello, Ray. Greetings from Havana. Indeed, today the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Bruno Rodriguez, held a press conference to answer to the petition of the U.S. government that Cuban diplomats leave the country. This comes after Cuba has categorically rejected the accusation that the Cuban government is involved in these acoustic incidents. Cuba have referred that it has never perpetrated, nor it will permit that this kind of attack happens on its territory. Cuba's President Raul Castro himself asked that the need of cooperation between the authorities, but the information given by the counterpart, the U.S. counterpart, was given late or not complete and did not ease the course of investigation. Right now, this is all I can tell you, and we'll have to wait for the future development of this topic.
Thanks, Laura. Thanks for that. Ecuador's Vice President Jorge Glass has been taken to jail in Quito after a court ordered his preventive detention on Monday. The Supreme Court ordered that Glass be jailed on suspicion of accepting bribes as part of the Odebrecht corruption scheme, where Odebrecht officials allegedly paid $33 million to Ecuadorian officials. The Vice President says the order is a shameful abuse against him, but he will comply because he trusts that justice will prevail. Glass insists that there is no evidence of the alleged crime and says he will appeal the court ruling to international organizations. Earlier, supporters of Glass protested in the streets in Guayaquil.
Let us ask President Lenin Moreno, who, after eating at the same table as Jorge Glass, has stabbed him in the back. We ask him why he arrived in town and came to win. Why? Thanks to Correa and thanks to Jorge Glass.
And the president of Ecuador, Lenin Moreno, has presented 7 key questions for a plebiscite he announced in mid-September. 5 of the 7 questions involve direct reforms to the constitution passed in 2008. Moreno said highlighting the issues through a popular consultation will help his government work more efficiently and strengthen the country's democracy. One of the key issues the referendum plans to tackle is the elimination of indefinite presidential re-election by making changes to the constitution. Another pause. We'll be back soon. Please stay with us. Thanks for sticking with us. Much of Catalonia has come to a halt as 40 trade unions called a general strike. Thousands of people gathered in front of police stations across the region to denounce the violent repression at voting stations during Sunday's referendum on independence for Catalonia. Schools and public buildings remain closed. The Catalan government approved a go slow, allowing 25% of public transport to keep running.
Basically, we are demonstrating because of the violence that we Catalans suffered on October 1st, the referendum day, a violence which was unjustified.
The PP and the words of Mariano saying that the referendum didn't happen, that this reaction from the police was an exemplary and measured reaction. I don't know if he has seen the images. I don't know what world he lives in.
That seems to be the general feeling in Catalonia, where the majority of people have expressed their will to be an independent nation. Well, our correspondent Joan Ortiz is there to tell us more. Joan?
We are reporting from Barcelona, and it was almost impossible to go around the streets in the downtown Barcelona, but now this is the images we've seen. And this is the images not only from the Catalonian cities, but also the municipalities of the region. There was a stoppage that was of about 17%, 60% of turnout, even though Madrid says it was a less turnout. What the popular People's Party says that, for example, Inigo de la Serna says that there was less turnout, and he lamented vandalism, but we have not seen any vandalism, and we hope there is no vandalism. And there's also a lot of messages in social media telling people to be aware of the possibility of infiltrated agents that may cause violence and then cause a reaction by the national police, the Spanish national police, so as then to intervene in the demonstrations and to intervene the autonomy of Catalonia. But none of this has happened. Also, we have messages from Madrid, and they were accusing Puigdemont of promoting hatred. But we have not seen also any hatred. Rafael Hernandez, the Popular Party spokesperson to the Congress, have said that it was a Nazi mobilization to put a halt to the economy. But Europe continues to the same statement. Europe says that it's an internal issue between Catalonia and Spanish, and that they don't support neither repression nor the violent demonstrations. And President Puigdemont said that they have to mediate.
John Ortiz in Catalonia, thanks for that. The Palestinian Prime Minister Rami al-Hamdallah has held a unity cabinet meeting in Gaza for the first time since 2014. This is part of the reconciliation efforts between Hamas and Fatah. Hamas announced last week that it was handing over administrative control of the Gaza Strip to a unity government headed by al-Hamdallah, who is based in the West Bank. Our Gaza correspondent Noor Harazin has more on the ground.
Palestinian Prime Minister Rami al-Hamdallah arrived in the Gaza Strip on Monday in a part of a 2-day visit to the Gaza Strip to reconcile with Fatah's rival party, Hamas. Today is the second day of this visit. The Palestinian people here are happy and excited. They do believe that 10 years of Palestinian division will end in these few weeks. Hamas does expect much to come from this reconciliation project, like Fatah could release a number of political prisoners in the PA jails. Abbas could lift his sanctions that he imposed on the Gaza Strip, and many good things could happen, like opening the borders, and also the problems of electricity, water, and medical supplies could be fixed.
No, thank you so much. For these and other stories, please visit our website, telesudtv.net/English, and feel free to join us on social medias, Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram. For Telesud English, I'm Regan Devines. Have a great evening. Ciao.